Hi, I'm Marisa, founder of Alternative Education at Home. And here's what I know after 15 years teaching my two kids. You've got more resources available to you to be able to teach your kids at home than you ever imagined. I am serious. You'll be amazed at what's out there, and a lot of times they're free, and you can still provide a great education for your kids. You just have to know where to look and the right questions to ask. But don't worry, I'll tell you all that. See, I used just about every resource out there: online learning, enrichment programs, box curriculum, and even made my own lesson plans, which was a lot of fun for me. And you'll be surprised to know how little I spent too. You know, when you're on one income, you learn to work around a tight budget, so a lot of the stuff I used cost us less than a couple $100s a year. Seriously. And that's why I put together this free 4-part video series on your child's educational options to let you in on everything I've learned. So even if you don't feel qualified to teach, with all the great curriculum, virtual classrooms, online resources available out there, you can leave the teaching to them and at the same time be able to keep your child at home so you can be the major influence in their lives. And you know, that's the main reason we wanted to teach our kids at home. But there are a lot of different reasons parents decide to do this. Some have special needs kids, so being able to have that one-on-one was the answer. I've met a lot of former educators who decided they'd take their skills and teach their own kids. Made sense to me. While some parents pulled their kids out of school after being bullied. The growing violence happening in schools has also led parents to teach their kids at home. So whatever reason you might have, I'm here to tell you, you can do this because there's so much out there to help you. But what you'll really need to succeed is a community of parents on the same journey helping encourage you. It's that kind of support you'll find right here at Alternative Education at Home. And you'll hear the amazing stories from parents and their kids who've successfully been taught at home. So be sure to sign up for the free video series on alternativeeducationathome.com by giving us your name and email so you can start receiving valuable information on all the educational options available so you can decide what is the best fit for your child. When I first started, I didn't have the kind of resources you have now. You've got the internet, virtual schools, online programs, and tons of packaged curriculum to choose from. So the real problem is being able to choose just the right resource for your child. With online learning growing roughly 30% every year for the last decade in the U.S., we may see online courses available in every public school by the year 2018. Now that's an option I chose when my kids reached their teens, because I gotta tell you, teaching them past the 7th grade was a struggle for me, yet I still wanted them home with me because I wanted to continue to be the main influence, especially during the teen years when they're faced with peer pressure, bullying, and negative influences such as drugs and alcohol. But I gotta admit, I suddenly found myself forgetting nearly everything I learned in high school. I got good grades, but that's only because I learned how to memorize for the tests. I wasn't taught to enjoy learning. I was always looking for the easy way out, and I did not want that for my children. So I figured rather than them spending 7+ hours every day in school, I would much rather spend that time with them, pouring into their lives our values, creating fond memories such as trips to the zoo, taking walks to the park, as well as teaching them how to clean their rooms the right way, how to cook a meal, do laundry, and learn good habits at an early age. I also wanted to especially teach them to desire serving those less fortunate in our community. So early on, they learned to prepare meals for 30 homeless adults every month by helping me in the kitchen and then serving the meals at a local church. Now, don't get me wrong. Of course, academics was important, but we didn't have to spend 7 hours doing it. We had the flexibility of being able to create a fun, nurturing, loving environment where asking questions was encouraged and learning character was the most important subject of all. Traits like self-control, discipline, good manners, not from a textbook, but by living life together. So the minute they'd start yelling, I was there to teach them how to speak kindly. They learned how to clean the entire house until they got it right, and that took time. But it was time that we had, and what I considered opportunities to teach them responsibility every single day, and then block out time for them to pursue their passion. It's that passion that's led my daughter to graduate with both her associate's degree at a community college and her high school diploma at the same time. Not bad for a junior in high school. And here's something interesting. When Lindsay gave her valedictorian speech, this was the first time she'd ever met her classmates since she was part of an online distance learning program.
Good evening, class of 14, family and friends. I'd like to start out with a poll. Graduates, raise your hand if you have a best friend graduating with you here tonight. Interesting. Okay, so what about just regular friends? Raise your hand if you have made several friendships because of Sequoia Choice Arizona Distance Learning. I'm seeing a pattern here. I think our situation here, graduates, is very unique. I mean, let's face it, we're all strangers. I'm going to be honest and say I've never seen any one of you before. You don't know who I am, and I don't really know you. This may be the first time we've met, and most likely our last. So this isn't like a regular high school graduation ceremony. We don't have people like the popular girls, the jocks, and the nerds to identify with. We didn't really create lasting memories with each other because, frankly, if you were like me, you were probably at home doing your schoolwork on the computer. Thus, the speech isn't going to be like a regular high school valedictorian speech. We've all been either part-time or fully learning online. I think online high school is awesome. You can sleep in when you need to, or wake up at the crack of dawn and finish your schoolwork early. You don't have to ask to go to the bathroom, and you can wear whatever you want to school. Most people think of online students as lonely kids who are huddled up in the corner of their room on their computer all day, their eyes melting out of their sockets from staring at the monitor for so long. But I, and I'm sure all of you, beg to differ. If we have a computer, we have our school. So we could go to the park and work on our history class or study science at Barnes & Noble. Or maybe some of you went to Sequoia Choice's lab sites and worked on your school there. So I think we can all agree that online learning has opened so many doors of opportunities. For example, I'm sure you've all heard of the early college program here at Sequoia Choice. I took advantage of this awesome opportunity since I first started here in 8th grade. Actually, a couple weeks ago, I went to another graduation at Chandler Gilbert Community College where I was handed my Associate of Arts degree. I just found out that almost 75% of our class has already received college credit. I'm blown away by that figure. Do you see what's happening here, graduates? We are changing and challenging the norm of education. We have proved that you don't need to physically go to school to receive a good education. And because of this, we don't have to endure through things like drama that goes on between cliques or friends, bullying, or other distractions that hinder us from succeeding in our academics.
A program that not only offered her online classes for free, but also paid for all of her college classes too. College classes Lindsay started taking when she was only in the 8th grade. And since the majority of those classes also counted for high school credit, she moved at a much faster pace. Here's what she has to say about her early college experience.
I started when I was in 8th grade, and I took the placement exam for community college, and it wasn't anything too difficult, so I easily passed and was able to start attending college. And I just took it baby steps, so I took my first class each semester for the first year. Just one class. I remember my first class was College Success, so nothing too difficult. And when I reached high school, which was a year later, I just kept going with the classes, maybe 2 to 3 classes each semester, and I also took my weaker subjects online through an online high school, and that was like math and history. And so really there wasn't a big secret to going to college early. It basically just takes a lot of discipline, knowing what you need to get done that day. You know, the teacher's not going to be by your side every day of the week holding your hand, so you have to be very responsible and not procrastinate. And also just be self-motivated, because when you're in college, you're the one that succeeds. It's not your teacher nagging you. You're the one that has to follow through. And so what I did is I always pictured my dream coming true. So maybe in 20 years, whether it was being a veterinarian or doing lab research for a big corporation, I just thought of that dream, and then that always made me want to do my absolute best. And a lot of people may have said, "Oh, isn't 13 and going to college a little too young?" I mean, there are obvious drawbacks, but then they're not that big. So I didn't reveal my age every class because I didn't really want to be discriminated or anything, but I was definitely capable of learning and performing up to other college students' work. So it's really not as big of a deal as people make it, but obviously there are some drawbacks every once in a while. But I'm really excited to move on to university in the fall.
The benefit for my husband and I was that we only had to think about paying for 2 years of university tuition. But thanks to Lindsay's hard work, her 4.0 GPA made her eligible for several scholarships, helping ease the financial burden for us. And by the way, if you're wondering about lack of socialization, that was never a problem. She joined a local high school volleyball team, took piano and violin lessons, joined an orchestra, worked at a kennel and a horse farm in exchange for horse riding lessons, and co-leads her youth worship team at church. That was a lot to juggle in high school, but Lindsay says having the flexibility in her schedule made it all manageable. As for my 15-year-old, Will started taking college classes when he was only 12, but he'll be the first to tell you he's no brainiac. He just wants to speed things up so he can grow his 2 successful online businesses even bigger. Oh, and lack of socialization was never an issue with him either.
You know, at church, they have those big tubs of hand sanitizer. The greeters are usually like, "Hey, how you doing? It is so nice to see you. We are so glad to have you. We're not going to judge you. We're just going to love." That's all we do in this church. How many kids do you guys have? 4? 4 is a great number of children. We love children. Children, they're just great. They're just like little angels from up above. Yes, they are. Where are you all from? Arkansas? Oh, what's that?
So what's holding you back? Maybe the same fears that gripped me. The fear that you won't be enough for your child, that someone else more educated will do a better job. Or maybe you believe deep down that bringing your child home from school might actually help strengthen the relationship you once had. But at the same time, you're afraid you'll drive each other crazy. Hey, I totally get it. Or maybe the thought of taking your younger child to school for the first time doesn't sit well with you. Maybe it's the high cost of tuition. Or maybe you're thinking, well, I'm just not patient enough, organized enough, smart enough. Well, I get that too. See, I didn't have patience when I first began, but I learned it. I was never organized, but I've learned to be. I also learned to use my news reporting experience to research and gather facts about teaching at home that I'm going to pass on to you to save you the hassle of finding out what works and what doesn't. But I also want to be honest about the challenges we faced, like when my husband didn't have a job for 8 months, or when we lost both our dads in 1 year. We were still able to teach our kids at home, and I'll share with you how we made it work. See, we know you can too. What we also found was that in the midst of those struggles, we had the time to teach about life's greatest lessons to our children. And yeah, I'll admit it, I didn't have a lot of time for myself, especially when the kids were young. But you know what? That actually forced me to be better at scheduling and organizing my day. And I also knew that if I gave up my time to teach them, in exchange, I would actually be giving my kids the time they need to pursue their passion, to learn at their own pace, to be able to live life together. That through the yelling, bickering, and whining, lessons on character were being taught, including my own. I know, this can all be overwhelming, but that's why I started Alternative Education at Home. My mission is to bring a community of like-minded parents to support one another, a community where you can share ideas and learn from each other, a community to encourage you and your kids that everything's gonna be okay. You can do this. After 15 years of successfully educating our 2 children, I've shortened the learning curve for you. I made all the mistakes so you don't have to. After you've watched this video, please leave your comments below. I would love to hear from you. That's why I'm here, to answer your questions and to see you succeed. You won't want to miss the next video where you'll hear your more traditional education options from the students themselves and what's really working and what's not. Sign up for free videos, webinars, and podcasts where you'll be hearing from other parents who've successfully taught their kids at home. You'll also hear from experts in the education field, and the best interviews will come from the students themselves, students who've used all sorts of educational options that turned out to be a good fit for them. So click on the button below to get free and valuable information coming your way that'll help you decide if teaching at home is right for you. And if it is, I'll have everything you need to get you started on your amazing journey. Until next time, I'm Marisa. Been there, done it, and so can you.